Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, Ed.
All right, so let's talk real estate and finance, shall we?
Sure.
All right.
That's what we do.
I don't want to talk rates or anything because you never, the moment I say something and then someone watches this tomorrow, it's over. But it's just we won't fully know until the CPI and not CPI, but PPI numbers come out on Friday to see where we're going.
Yeah,
because everything else is going pretty much what we thought. So. And I still think Fed's going to raise a couple more times, even though they shouldn't, and put us finally into that recession we've been told about for the last year.
Gotcha.
Right. And for us, recession is good because that means rates are going to go down.
Yeah.
If we keep having these amazing employment numbers, I don't know how we're going to keep doing this. But the only reason we have amazing unemployment numbers is because there's so many people not working.
Yeah, so many people that left the labor force, right?
Or just aren't working, period.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing,
Yeah, I know. Off camera, you were talking about the AI systems that are now taking orders, right?
Yeah, there's 300 fast food restaurants trying it out. Yeah. Before you know it, there'll be a robot there. Can I take your order, please? Which they'll probably get it right. So,
Yeah, I was going to say the voice dictation, about 95% accurate, right?
Right, but I don't care about that. But my order will definitely be right.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? I mean, if they understand, it'll understand enough, right?
Well, it's like my wife went into this a while back. We haven't been at McDonald's forever. And I didn't go, and she ran in. She's like, "Oh, so great! There's a machine." You go, and then they call your number and go pick it up. I didn't have to deal with anybody going, "What did you want? What was that again?" It's like, really that bad? It's just like if you go to a restaurant and you tell something your server, and then they don't write it down, and they go, "I'm sorry, what was that again?"
Yeah.
Why don't you write it down this time? Yeah. Anyway. All right. We're done talking.
I can say, but there goes all the entry-level jobs, right? I mean, that's where I learned patience with customers because I worked fast food,
Mm-hmm. And well, again, that's high school jobs, not permanent job for the rest of your life, and try to buy a house with a job at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Or wherever.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Well, it never was.
You don't what about in the 70s, man? I was
never was. Never was. The only place I know of that was just like working was Foster Farms fried chicken places that they had for 25 years. There were those restaurants. Now it's the Chicken Barn here in Modesto, but it used to be Foster Farms fried chicken. And when you worked there, you worked for Foster Farms. And so you got the same benefits, you got the same, all that stuff. And they had them for 25 years. And so so my first real job, because I worked for my grandfather's dairy forever. And so now I got paid when I got my first real job. Right? The other one, you never really got paid, but you learned a lot. Was der Wiener Schnitzel down by 5 Points.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first real job. I lived in Turlock, came up for that. And then my second job was Foster Farms fried chicken in Turlock. And that's what I did all through my last 2 years of high school.
Yeah.
Which taught me a lot. It was great. Knew how to do things,
For sure.
But it's not like I wasn't going to stay there. However, after I got in the Navy, 5 years into it, came back like after I got out, and the same manager was there, the same assistant manager.
Yeah.
Because again, it was just like working at Foster Farms.
Yeah.
But that's not what I wanted to do. But anyway, but now they're changing it. Like you said, too many people want $22 an hour to take your order. Yeah. And that's too costly for most places. I mean, In-N-Out, I guess, can make it, but not a lot of other places.
Yeah, I can say there's a never-ending stream of cars at that place, man.
Right. Well, I remember them from Southern California when they were first going in.
I think that's a good example of choose what you do and do it well, right? Mm-hmm. And you'll be successful.
Right. Also, just do certain things. Don't do everything.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Just pick what you can do and just focus on. Really, what you're supposed to do in our industry is niche, right? Mm-hmm. So my niches I'm just kidding. Well, my biggest one is veterans, but I also do really well with business owners because I understand how they do their taxes, right? I understand everything about that. Give me a business owner as a veteran, that's a ding, ding, ding for me. But those are my two best people. I can do everything else because those are easy, but those are my best two people. The other thing I like to do, because that's my problem, is the other thing I like to do is reverse mortgages because you help people get back their dignity. So those three things. So I guess my best thing is I help people tell their stories across multiple mediums.
Yeah.
That's my real thing. Anyway, but back to what's going on right now. we were talking about that jobs and how those are going away, which then, I was telling you off camera, or I think even Tuesday, I've been seeing a lot more people who their divorces are coming through.
Yeah.
And now they're like, what do we do? And you run the numbers and some are like, well, I might have to wait to pay them off, or I got to sell the house. I know somebody else who's divorced and had to sell the house. And he's like, happy birthday. By the way, I'm divorced and homeless, or I don't own a home anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what, how am I supposed to answer that?
Yeah.
So thank you. Sorry for you. And he's like, no, it's all good. And that's the thing is right now it's really expensive to buy out that other party.
Yeah.
And if, and that's if you're married. What do you do if you break, you bought a house with somebody and you break up? How do you do that?
Especially if you're using both the incomes initially to qualify for the home, right? Unless your employment has changed and you're making a lot more money, you might not even qualify.
Well, that's the thing is if you have both people on a transaction and then they get broken up, the question is you got to buy the other person out. How do you do that? How, where do you do that? How do you make sure that you get paid out? Because I think we were talking about this off camera and you wanted to talk about it. Was there something you want to talk about with that?
Well, so some people think that like, there was a hypothetical given to me.
He just monitor over here.
Oh, sorry, man.
No, it keeps like I have one of those things where I see something in the corner of my eye and I have to look at it. Yeah. Now I dropped it. We're good.
But so what I was asking you a question about is like, say someone isn't married, right? And they break up, and normally that's something that's handled through a divorce attorney, right?
Right. If you're married and or you've been living together for 20 years or whatever, then yeah, that's usually you figure that stuff out through a paralegal or somebody. But if you're married, it's part of the marriage settlement agreement is, you have kids, who takes kids, how many times you get that. And also what do we do with all the debts, all the assets and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, and now if you can come to some kind of agreement, you don't need to go through any kind of attorney.
Are we talking about divorced people? Are we talking married people or two single people who bought together?
Two single people who bought together now.
Well,
right?
If two single people bought together and they're both on agreement what the house is worth and then what the other person wants out of their like 50%, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then you might have to go to court on it.
Like say maybe go to mediation first before you go hire attorneys, right?
Right. But if you're on title, they can't just take you off title.
Yeah.
So you can, sit there. But the problem is if you're on the mortgage and he or she, whoever's in the house is mad and he's like, I'm not making any more payments.
Yeah. Now your credit's screwed. And
Right. Or you're making the payments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is don't leave.
Yeah. Don't leave.
Don't leave until you've worked this out.
Well, and feel free to give me a call first. Right.
Right. Well, the thing, but the issue with that is they're going to need to know what the value of the house is. So they're going to have to order appraisal or, depending on what they see, like we can do those quick AVN things and that's going to give you a close thing. But if you really want to know it is order appraisal with a local appraiser.
Yeah.
And then they'll tell you what it's worth. And then you guys work out how you get paid the other person off. Because if you're both on there as individuals and you're both like, the question is how they took title, right? The reason I'm saying this, if it's joint tenancy, that means if one of them passed away, the other one gets it. If they're, half interest or whatever is stated in there. So it just depends on how they took title also to help with that. Because what happens if somebody, you're going through this and you want the other person to pass away. So you get it. But what I would just say is the best thing to do is you're going to need to find a real estate attorney potentially, because it's not a divorce thing. It's not a breaking up thing. It's just, or go to a local, like you said, a mediation place and just, if you need to, but write something up. And people have to realize if they both bought it together and they both put in the same amount of money and they both been helping with the payments, they're owed the 50% equity.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And I mean, but if you're going to go sell it, right? So,
well, even if you're going to if you want to buy the other person out, you might have to sell it.
That's what I'm saying. There's a good chance that these people might have to sell, right? So give me a call first. I've dealt with sticky situations like this with two couples that are divorced and, one tried to stay in the house and it's just not working. So they have to sell. I'm really good at mediating in between, angry.
Yeah, but this is different though. This is not divorced people. This is two boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever that situation is.
Yeah.
The issue is there's no rule. He could just, if whoever's in the house could just keep making the payment and not buy you out, but then eventually you'll get bought out.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is like, hey, if it's time to, if it doesn't make sense for either party to stay, if neither one can afford it on their own and you need to sell, then let's figure that out.
I understand that, but I guarantee you the situation, one party is okay staying there and making that payment because it's a low freaking payment because it's a low interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And the other person's going, I want off of this loan.
Yeah.
To do that, you're going to have to force it through the court system somehow to get them to do, what's right.
If that one person wants to stay.
I guarantee you that's what your issue is going to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise they wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm sure the one person is like, oh, you don't love me anymore. Here, sign off on my house. It's our house. No, it's my house now. You left.
Yeah.
The problem is people get bitter. People have issues. And
these things come up more often than most people probably think.
Well, because it's not only just two people who are boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever the situation is. It could be two brothers bought, a mom and their kid brought together, and now they want out of it. And that could be it. And that's why I always say when you do these kind of things, unless if you're married, it's automatically you go through divorce and it gets worked out through the divorce system. But if you're going to do this with somebody else, you need to put everything in writing up front. Oh, we're never going to get broken up. Whatever. You know what I mean? You need to put together, if something happens and we split, we're going to sell the property and you're going to give me my 50 and you get your 50, you go buy your other house. You follow me? That's what really needs to be put together if you're buying it with somebody else other than your spouse.
Yeah.
Or even in your significant other that's a fiance, it needs to be put in writing. Because they're always this stuff, family and all this always needs to be in writing because they're always an issue.
I was going to say, multi-generational families sometimes will buy a house together, right? Because I've had offers with 6 people on the offer, to
help them qualify.
Yeah. And same thing, it's just like.
Well, the question is, are they really all going to live there, or are they just non-occupying co-borrowers to help them qualify? That's different. A lot of times they don't want anything to do with it. They're just there to help them qualify. You follow me? But if you're with your girlfriend, boyfriend, and you're buying together, please put in writing in case something happens. This is what we're going to do before you buy, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. I got remarried with my wife now, and we had a prenup. And everybody was like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't want her house, and she didn't want my house. So we put it in writing in case something happens. She gets to keep her stuff, I get to keep my stuff, and we move on." Yeah. 19 years later, the prenup's gone.
Yeah.
Because we redid our trust, which is another thing. It's very important to have a trust.
19 years now, huh, Ed?
Yeah, this year will be 19.
Congrats, man.
Yeah. Yep, this November. She's gonna say, "Honey, it's been 20." No, I'm just kidding. It's 19. Yeah, it's not there yet, but we're getting there. Yeah. But we've been together 19 years. This will be the 19th marriage years.
Gotcha.
All right, yep. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate all your information as always, Ed.
Thank you for being here. And thanks for bringing that question, because that's a good question, because I don't think people realize, everything's perfect until it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's much harder to undo things than to do them right.
Always.
Yeah.
It was harder to get out of a house back during the pandemic. Back during the Great Recession than it was to get into the house.
Yeah.
Right. Short sales, you have to show all this stuff. To get that house, you didn't show anything.
Yeah, that was a weird time.
All right, everybody, make it a great day. Thanks for watching. The best way you can support us is just go to our YouTube channel. Mine's at Parcaut, and Bobby's Robert Atkins Realtor. Correct?
Yes, sir.